Esthers. Welcome back to part 2 with my mom discussing teen dating. So today we're going to do the first few chapters. We'll see how far we can get in the book Straight Talk about teen dating. So as you mentioned, we're going to move into part 2. Today's going to kind of be on some of the negatives. And I will say we haven't rehearsed any of this. We've read it together, we've discussed it on the side, but we've not rehearsed our comments today. So it's just going to kind of be an open discussion while I'm highlighting things that stood out in the book that we've talked about. But today's going to kind of be, how should I put it? It's going to kind of be the warnings that start off with some negatives before we get to the what should we do about it. So the author's kind of giving us a very sober introduction to it to really make us be motivated to do a Christian approach to dating. So it's one of the chapters is going to be our society has lots of people with serious problems, and then talking about living in a war zone with people who are brainwashed, and divorce, and the power of peers. So we'll see if we can get to all 4 of those today. Again, just hitting the highlights from each one. Now, one of the things we kind of touched on last time is that the point of dating is to find out if serious problems exist. So it's really easy when you first meet someone, you're thinking, oh, they're so cute, or there's all these positives, and you kind of see some like, things that might be red flags, but we kind of want to brush them under the rug because there's so many other good character traits that person has. But this book is saying, oh, no, don't ignore those. You need to pay attention to them because you know what? There's a lot of people in our society with serious problems. And again, I'm going to scroll along because the print is so large. So teen dating can possibly lead to marriage one day. And it's very important for your sake that you don't end up marrying a person who has one or more serious problems. And I can say, you haven't had any experience yet dating, but I can say that I definitely did. I would see red flags and ignore them because I'd be, the heart's fluttering and it's so exciting. Maybe it's a popular jock who's paying attention to you, someone popular in school, and you're just thinking, me? And it's so easy though to ignore warning signs. But we don't want to because this person could potentially become your spouse. And so you need to have really paid attention to those. And unfortunately, many people who have serious problems, and we're going to get to what some of those are, but some examples are selfishness, dependency, meaning they depend on you in a level that's unhealthy, anger, untreated mental health issues, disrespect towards others. That's a big one. You may think, well, that's kind of small, like, so they talk back to their mom. Ooh, that should be a warning sign. Irresponsibility. Really, do you want to be with someone who's irresponsible? A lack of integrity, dishonesty. You don't want to be with someone who is cutting corners and not showing responsibility and lying, either lying by telling lies or by leaving out key information. Laziness. You're asking for a lifetime of unhappiness. Careless spending. A desire to control you. We hear about this in society more and more. Really kind of scary, controlling people. People who want to control whoever they're dating. Scary. An unwillingness to grow up. I think we see this a lot in society too, and I don't mean to just be harsh on males, but boy, if you got someone addicted to gaming who's all they want to do is just game, that's kind of a scary sign. They need to grow up. Addictions to alcohol, addiction to other types of drugs, pornography. Unfortunately, that's even in the church.
Major one.
And even in the church, that's a big one. And it's so readily available. I mean, when I was a young person, someone had to go buy a magazine. But now they can just get it on their phone. And even sometimes it's unsolicited. They're innocently doing whatever on their computer or their phone, and stuff comes up. either in ads or other things, and now they've been exposed to it. And it can definitely easily become addictive.
I actually even heard of a situation where a young kid was just on kids' YouTube watching something and it was pornographic.
Yeah, they
It's
thought it
just
was safe.
everywhere. It's
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah. Now, someone who has these problems is probably going to try to hide them during the dating process. That's why you have to take it really slowly and get to know that person. They'll make every effort to only show the good side. And of course, we do that too. You know, we want to put our best foot forward, show our good side. Well, they're trying to do that too. But when humans have the feeling of being in love and they're dating a person who seems to have everything they're looking for, they've got good looks, a fun personality, maybe they've got money, then we have a tendency to ignore or minimize the importance of the serious problems. The problems I just listed are actually serious problems. Those are red flags. Any of those are red flags. Don't ignore them. Because they are problems that can destroy a marriage. If you end up marrying a person with a serious problem, your life could become really, really bad. It says another word in here, but you know, it compares it to a bad place. So the purpose of this chapter that we're going through is to warn you that many people who seem to have it all together, they have hidden serious problems that you need to try to discover before dating and during dating. Please don't set yourself up for disaster by sugarcoating or overlooking a serious problem in the person you're dating.
Yes, please
you are just
don't.
asking for problems.
All of these are very important.
And so one of the things to reflect on from this chapter is, what are the dangers of dating someone who has a serious problem? So be aware of the serious problems that we listed, and really be aware of how much unhappiness it can cause you if you were to date or marry someone who has those problems. So talking about war zone and being brainwashed, this is especially important for Christians because we do live in a culture that's a war zone for us. And there is a war for your heart and your mind. There is a war between the forces of good and forces of evil. You are being bombarded by evil influences that want to control your heart and your mind. For example, the content of magazines, books, and the internet, and music, and other things, other forms of entertainment. Many of those things, the content of them isn't pleasing to God. They glamorize materialism, meaning we just want to accumulate things, buy things and accumulate things. They might glamorize swearing, alcohol, drug use, violence, lust, and sex before marriage. And those things, exposing your eyes and your ears and your heart, your mind to those things, it damages you. It damages your heart and your mind. Now, many people, and there are people who are trying to put that type of, I don't hope this doesn't sound bad, but it's garbage. They're trying to put that garbage into your head and into your heart. And a lot of times it's companies, because they're trying to make money. And that kind of stuff sells. Edgy stuff sells. And so even if it's not for the good of society, they'll still put it out there and influence you with it because it sells.
Yeah.
I mean, they're willing to hurt you so that they can make money.
Exactly.
And they also want to impose their evil value system on you. So we need to be very careful that there is a biblical value system and there is a worldly value system. And we need to make sure that we are following the biblical value system and not the world's. And unfortunately, things that you are reading or watching or listening to, you've got to be so careful. What values are those giving you?
And put up boundaries.
And put boundaries, absolutely. Because you don't want the negative to influence you. And unfortunately, it influences what we expect from relationships, because it kind of puts false expectations in there. The media has a way of making things that are clearly sinful to God. I'm sorry, the media has a way of making things that are clearly sinful to God and that will damage or destroy your life seem like harmless fun. So make sure to take steps that are necessary throughout your life to protect your heart and your mind from the negative influences of the media, which means that you've got to limit what you hear and see. For example, don't read books and magazines, listen to music, or watch things that glamorize sin. Just don't do it. It may seem harmless, but it's not. And I can tell you from having been raised in the world, there are times when Chris and I will be doing something. I can remember, because I was raised on TV and movies. I can remember things, and I'm in my 50s now, but I can remember things from 40 years ago, 45, almost 50 years ago. Images of things that I saw, movies that I saw, scenes will come back to me in detail. They can get a little more hazy and hard to remember as you get older, but sometimes they come back unbidden. I'm not even wanting them to come back in my head. Once they're there, you can't really fully get them out. So don't even put any questionable stuff in there. Don't be fooled if you think the media doesn't have an effect on you, because it does. And the message that we receive relentlessly every day is that when a person wants to start dating, all they need to use is the approach of, I'm going to search for the person who's cute, who's got a great personality, maybe who's got some money, someone who I like, someone who I have feelings for, there's some attraction between us. That's all I need and I'll fall in love. Well, that's the world's approach, right? Yeah. And a lot of books and magazines glamorize that kind of fairy tale approach. But unfortunately,
the fairy tale approach doesn't last.
Yeah, it has several problems with it. The first one is that, which I thought this was so interesting, I liked this point. Think about it. Think about all those characteristics I just said. It's based on selfishness. A person using this approach is just trying to get what they want for themselves.
So they don't care about the other person.
Right, you're just thinking, oh, they have this, they have that, they have that, and these are all things that you want. So there's actually an element of selfishness to it. The second problem is that the result of using this approach is usually heartbreak because it's very superficial. The third problem with this approach is that it promotes being lazy, and that it's okay. It basically says that a person, you don't have to do much to prepare for dating. Just be searching and that perfect person is out there, and then voila, it's just going to be this fairy tale, staring each other's eyes, and you know it's the person for you. So that's not how it works. I mean, that may give you that initial
butterfly, I'm in love feeling.
Yeah, I'm in love, but that's not true love. That's not lasting love.
Yeah.
So the biggest problem with that approach is that it doesn't include God. So the author calls that dating without God. And isn't it unbelievably sad that so many people use an approach to dating that's based upon a fairy tale? It's actually a selfish approach. It's a lazy approach, and you're gambling. It rarely works, and it doesn't include God. So doing anything without God isn't good, and especially dating without God is probably going to lead to disaster. So the alternative approach that this author promotes, which I like.
When you said gambling, what exactly did you mean?
Well, you're taking a chance. It's like gambling, because gambling is you're just kind of rolling the dice and taking a chance that you win.
Right.
And so if you do this superficial approach to dating that doesn't include God, you're taking your chances.
Oh, okay.
Whereas if you do the part, which we'll talk more about, of finding a keeper, making yourself a keeper, you do the hard work of dating, watching for those red flags, really trying to get to know the person, doing it slowly and carefully, and making God part of the process, then it's not so much of a gamble. the person you end up with and you marry should be the keeper that God wants for you. But if you don't do those things, then you're taking a risk, like gambling.
Okay.
So the alternative approach that this author promotes is dating with God. And this one took a little longer than I thought, so we should probably stop here, and then we'll cover kind of the two other negatives. We were going to talk about divorce. I can't remember the fourth one, but we'll go into a little more. Oh, peer pressure.
That is a big one.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about, again, we're trying to look at the negatives of if you don't do it right, what can happen. And so we're going to talk about divorce and also the importance of not giving into negative peer pressure. And that'll be on our next one.
Definitely. Well, I hope you enjoyed. This has been such a learning experience for me, and I hope it has been for you as well. Join us for our next session, and don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on the post notifications, and we'll see you next time. Bye!